Hello everyone. The Bible tells us in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition." If ever there was a time where people are leaving the churches like never before, it is now. Protestant people forgot why they are called Protestant. Pope Francis is calling on evangelicals and Catholics to unite. He said division is the work of the devil. Now I wonder why the division came about to begin with. Then you got Rick Warren. Protestants and Catholics must unite to defend life, sex, marriage. We are on the same team, he said. The article reads, Evangelical Pastor Rick Warren, who leads the 8th largest church in America, Saddleback, said that Protestants and Catholics must form a unity of missions to defend the sanctity of life, sex, and the family, stressing that if you love Jesus, we are on the same team.
I believe that God has brought me here to this year's Ministers' Conference in the spirit of Elijah. Let me explain. If you look carefully, the spirit of Elijah was on John the Baptist to turn the hearts of the sons to the fathers, and to turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons, to prepare the way for the Lord. And we know that prophecy always has a double fulfillment. And we know that Elijah will come before the second coming as well. And I've understood that the spirit of Elijah is the spirit of reconciliation, to return hearts to each other. It means if you're born again, raise your hand if you're born again. You're a Catholic. Take back, redeem what belongs to you. We are Catholics. I've come to understand that diversity is divine. It's division that's diabolic. It's the glory that glues us together, not the doctrines. It's the glory. If you accept that Christ is living in me, and the presence of God is in me, and the presence of God is in you, that's all we need. Because God will sort out all our doctrines when we get upstairs. This brought an end to the protest of Luther. Brothers and sisters, Luther's protest is over. Is yours. In 1999, this was signed by the Lutheran Church, the Federation Worldwide. Later, about 5 years later, the Worldwide Methodists signed the same agreement, but as of today, we still have had no Protestant evangelical that will stand up and sign this agreement to agree with our brothers and sisters that we are saved by grace through faith to good works. And I believe that's something that needs to be fixed. There's a challenge for you. So the protest has been over for 15 years. And I get a bit cheeky here because I challenge my Protestant pastor friends. If there is no more protest, how can there be a Protestant church? Maybe we're all Catholics again. But we are reformed. We're Catholic in the universal sense. We are not protesting the doctrine of salvation by the Catholic Church anymore. We now preach the same gospel. We now preach you are saved by grace through faith alone. The word alone was the argument for 500 years. The word alone is there. You can read it yourself. The protest is over. The protest is over. So let me...
My dear sir, thank you so from the bottom of our hearts. All of these leaders represent literally tens of thousands of people that love you, that believe God with you. And in answer to your request, we have just prayed for you and with you, and we did so in the Spirit. And we believe we receive, according to the words of Jesus in Mark 11:24. Whatsoever thing you desire when you pray, Believe you receive them, and you shall have them. Our desire, sir, along with you, is in the 4th chapter of the book of Ephesians. Till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a mature man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Thank you, sir. We do bless you. We receive your blessing. It's very, very important to us. And we bless you with all of our hearts. We bless you with all of our souls. We bless you with all of our might. And we thank you, sir. We thank God for you. And so, all of us declare together, be blessed. Once again, all together, be blessed. Amen. Amen.
Even the SDAs, who has a duty to proclaim the 3 angels' messages to call people out of Babylon, are losing their ground as well, reaching out to the papacy. The headline read, as Ted Wilson spoke about proclaiming the 3 angels' message, Adventists celebrated the feast of St. Francis of Assisi. The article says, the meeting of the annual council of the General Conference Executive Committee are underway and will take place from October 6, 2020 to October 14, 2020 at this year's gathering of top Adventist church leaders. A new evangelistic focus has been initiated called Reach the World, I Will Go. In the same week that Ted Wilson was focused on engaging every church member to preach the 3 angels' message, other Seventh-day Adventists were celebrating the Feast of St. Francis of Assisi on Sunday, October 4th, 2020, just 2 days before. People wake up. The falling away is actually happening and we're sound dead asleep. The Bible also tells us in the book of 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 1, now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils.
Our Blessed Mother Mary continues to appear over and over during this coronavirus pandemic. So check this out. She appears again. Well, you already know in my last video that she appeared in Michigan and continues to appear in Michigan during the Holy Hour. And you can see that video right here. Well, there's the icon. And the link is in the description below, where she appears as Our Lady of the Tear of Joy. Well, here we go. If you saw the Pope's Orbi blessing in Italy on March 27th, you will see, check this out. Did anyone see who's in the sky? Look at that. I'll zoom in closer. And there she is! Our Blessed Mother Mary. Hi, Mother! In all her splendor. Thank you, Mother. Well, for the glory of God, she appears in Italy the day before the Pope's blessing, on March 26th. Look at her here in the sky, letting us all know that everything's going to be okay. And she's with us. And the day before that, she appears in Argentina on March 25th. Wow. Look at her radiance. Thank you, Mother. Thank you, thank you. You are so good to us. And then on the same day as the Pope's blessing, on March 27th, she appears quite large, as you could see, in Colombia. Once again, comforting us, bringing us hope and peace and comfort. Okay, so I can't overlook this video, March 19th, that was taken in China. So It's a little disturbing, as you can see here. So they are saying that is coronavirus, or a demon, or maybe both, I don't know, leaving China.
Revelation chapter 16 verse 14, for they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to battle of that great day of God Almighty. My friends, we are truly living in the last days. Jesus Christ is one step closer to split the eastern sky open. While all these things are happening in the churches, preparations are being made for the enforcement of the Mark of the Beast system. Check out these clips.
China has already begun reopening its country, including the city that was the source of the virus, Wuhan. From Oren now, let's go to David Culver in Shanghai. So last night you showed us the app that the Chinese government uses to track people in the country. It's incredibly detailed and personal and invasive. Can you explain how you signed up for the app? I mean, how is it used?
Yeah, let me walk you through that, Anderson, because I've been getting a lot of questions. This is the QR code, a barcode equivalent that I have. It's really specific to me, and everyone who's registered for one has something just like that. And so you use it to get into places like hotels, restaurants, shopping malls. It's your golden key, essentially. Let me show you going back to when we arrived here in Shanghai, and I don't think I fully realized it at the time, but that's what I was signing up for, along with every single person who got off the train. You're going through a line where, of course, they monitor your temperature. You're met by folks in hazmat suits. They ask you for, if you're Chinese, your national ID card. If you're a foreigner like me, I handed over my U.S. passport. It's then linked to not only your passport number, but also your cell phone number, so that then they can continue to track you. And I can show you how it's used if you are headed into, for example, a space like a hotel. As soon as you walk in, they've now set up tables that naturally have the temperature screening. They have the hand sanitizer, and then they ask to see your app. You open it up in real time because people have been screenshotting them, so they figured out a workaround to avoid that. So you have to actually push the button and show it time-stamped, and then they check it, verify it, and they'll let you in. Incredibly invasive. I don't know if it can happen in other parts of the world, though it is their way of tracing and tracking.
So, I mean, have they done a test on you, and therefore, like, you know, did they do a nasal swab test on you, and you passed that, and therefore, every time they check your temperature, they assume you haven't gotten infected? I mean, how do they know you're not infected?
Yeah, it's a good question. Incredibly, I have not been tested, even though I was actually in Wuhan just ahead of the lockdown and did 14 days of quarantine and have subsequently been here in Shanghai. I've not been tested. That's not part of this. The idea here is that they can determine whether or not you've been around somebody who's a confirmed case, and that's using some of the geolocation tracking on the cell phone, and they can specify if you're on a train, for example, and you're on one end of a carriage, or you're in a separate car from a confirmed case. Depending on how far you were or how close you are to that confirmed case, they can then change your barcode, your QR, to a yellow or red, and you can then go into self-isolation or government quarantine.
That's incredible that they can. I mean, that's a level of surveillance which obviously does not exist here.
And probably, I think, could
Right.
not exist. I think David probably would agree with that. He's lived in both places, China and here. But, you know, it's interesting because a lot of people do look to China, David, to sort of get an idea of maybe how things are going to transpire here. And so to that, what are the latest numbers the Chinese government has released on the virus? I've seen sometimes it's trending upward, but the government feels confident enough, I read, for Shanghai schools to reopen now?
That was a significant announcement that was made just this week. Yeah, Shanghai schools, I mean, you're talking about a city here of 24+ million people, so it's the largest city. It was set at the end of April 27th, that they have decided to start this phased reopening of schools. They're going to do it in batches, Sanjay, so they'll essentially let those who are seniors go back first, and then entering May, they'll start to allow universities to apply to reopen and some of the other students to then resume classes. But as far as the numbers are concerned, we're looking at more than 81,000 cases total. All of this, of course, according to the National Health Commission or the Chinese government, it's met with heavy skepticism because they list the total of deaths at 3,300. And as we start to see the numbers really skyrocket in Europe and in the U.S., that is met with increasing skepticism. I think folks just simply can't believe that it's adding up to that. But they also stress the recovery number of some 77,000. So that leaves roughly 1,100 active cases.
Is the province of Ontario, and for that matter, other provinces and territories, are they about to build internment camps as a way of dealing with the Wuhan virus? Now, I know, folks, it sounds preposterous, doesn't it? But Ontario MPP Randy Hillier, he wants to know, and I presume millions of Canadians would like to know. And as a matter of fact, Mr. Hillier raised this very point in question period in the Ontario legislature just a few days ago. Check it out.
The next question, the member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. In my supplemental question yesterday, I asked this government if the people of Ontario should prepare for internment camps. In September, the federal government posted a call for expressions of interest for contractors to supply, provide and manage quarantine isolation camps throughout every province and every territory in Canada. These quarantine isolation camps, however, are not limited to people with COVID, but provide a wide latitude for many people to be detained. Surely this government is aware of the intentions to build these isolation camps from coast to coast. And my question to the Premier is, how many of these camps will be built, and how many people does this government expect to detain?
Question. Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is very true that when people leave the country and when they come back in, that the province is suggesting, and the federal government, in cooperation with the federal government, we are suggesting that people isolate themselves. That has been a practice that has been very successful, not only here in the province of Ontario, but across Canada. And we will, of course, be redoubling our efforts to make sure that the people of the province of Ontario remain safe, Mr. Speaker.
Here's the RFP. And in the RFP, it uses clear language to express that these camps can be used for a broad spectrum of people, not limited to travellers. Indeed, it doesn't even mention international travellers. It's just a broad latitude of people. And I'll send over the copy of the RFP after. So your government must be in negotiations and aware of these plans to potentially detain and isolate citizens and residents of our country and our province. So, Speaker, to the Premier, where will these camps be built? How many people will be detained? And for what reasons?
Question.
For what reasons can people be kept in these isolation camps? And I'd like to have the Premier assure the people of Ontario.
Member, take a seat.
Wow, that's something. I think for Mr. Hillier's first question, the answer was evasive, to be kind. For the second question, there was no answer. They just cut it off. It's curious, folks, because I did reach out to Mr. Hillier, who was on the road. He wasn't able to join us for an interview, but he said that looking back at that question period experience, there were two red flags. The first one was the silence that continues from the federal government. And the second red flag was that when he asked those questions in the legislature about the internment camps, all of the other MPPs were looking at each other. Randy says they either didn't know this issue or they preferred not to give any answers about this particular issue. I find that troubling. I think one of the hallmarks of a democracy is transparency.
Good afternoon, how you doing, guys? Yes, good, thanks, how are you? What are you guys doing on the streets, if you don't mind me asking?
The City Council, we're just supporting them, handing out COVID tests.
For what reason?
Just to give people a chance to test themselves in the house.
Can I ask you a question? I'm a citizen of Handsworth, and I live in this community. I just want to know, and I'm recording this for my safety and your safety also, why is the need to have the army on our streets and knocking on people's doors and to see if they want to be tested?
We're just here to support the council and hand them out.
But why the army?
Just to support. That's all we're here for, just to support the council and help hand out tests.
But if people want to have tests, surely that's their discretion. If they can go voluntarily to any sort of centres to have tested. So why knock on people's doors?
Just to give them the option. They don't have to take it. They can just take it if they want.
And whose directive is this?
Birmingham City Council.
Birmingham City Council. And where's Birmingham City Council got this directive from?
I'm not sure, sorry.
And also, just to say, if you do come knocking on my door and I refuse, is there any repercussions to that?
Of course not, no, it's entirely up to yourself.
And how do you guys feel? I assume you're part of the British Army?
The Air Force.
You are, the Air Force, yeah? And how do you guys feel knocking on people's doors?
Well, I don't want to answer more questions, but we're just here to support, but thank you.
Yeah, but surely, I mean, you know, you're here to, you know, this is a democratic country that we live in, yes? And it's a free country. Do you not think this is a bit draconian in terms of what you guys are doing?
I'm not answering more questions, sorry, but we're just here to support, but thank you.
So you're only here to support?
We're here to support the council, yeah.
Is there any legal right that you can actually go around knocking on people's doors?
I'm not answering any more questions.
Well, it's not very good. Like I said, I'm not happy as a citizen of Handsworth, you know, and I'm one of the residents around here. And if I do see anybody, any people that I know, I will tell them to refuse to open their doors, because I think it's an absolute liberty of people's civil rights and taking away our freedoms. This is absolute tyranny. Having the army on the streets, yeah? Having the army on the streets. Now listen, I'm saying, having the army on the streets is absolute tyranny. And you guys really should be ashamed of yourselves doing this, you know that? It's absolutely disgusting. Is this what this country's come to now? Absolutely disgraceful. Knocking on people's doors to ask them if they want to be tested. There's nothing wrong with people. If people want to get tested, they can go to these test centres if they want to. This is intimidation. You know that. Absolute tyranny. And mark my words, we'll be getting the words out. Taking orders from on high. So this is Station Road, people. They're going out knocking on people's doors, asking if they want to have voluntary tests. And we don't even know what these tests are. We don't know what they're for. So please, I say to the community of Handsworth, do not open your doors, and if you do open your doors, politely tell them to go away. Yeah? How are you, brother? You okay, yeah? So I'm just recording these army people on the street.
I've just put the pictures up on the group chat.
Oh, have you? Okay, well listen, I've just spoken to them, I've recorded them, so we just need to get the word out to people not to open doors.
I've told everyone, I've put it on the group chat.
Yeah, I've just seen the photos, yeah.
Yeah.
No problem. Listen, let's just see what they've got to say anyways. They haven't said much anyways.
Are they doing COVID testing now?
I'm not too sure, I'll ask them. Just tell them to go away. Tell them you don't want to test. This is all against the law. Coming around knocking on people's doors. How dare you taking civil liberties out of people's knocking on people's doors? Well, you shouldn't be asking people, madam, shut your door and tell them no. Right? This is a piss take. The army on the streets. You should be ashamed of yourselves. This is Britain, not communist China. Just politely say no, madam. Yeah, you all need to get off the streets. All of you.
Why?
Why? Because you're taking the piss, that's why. Knocking on people's doors, it's a liberty. Don't just say no. Don't open your doors, and they've got no right coming around here knocking on people's doors. This is a liberty. Yeah, you all need to get off the roads, get off the streets and stop knocking on people's doors. Tell them no, love, if they come knocking on your door. I'm a citizen of this country, that's who I am, mate. I'm a tax-paying individual. Okay. Well, yeah, you got no right going around knocking on people's doors.
What, giving a free COVID test?
Yes. If people want to have a COVID test, they can go on their own free will. We don't need people like you knocking on people's doors. Okay. No, do one. Okay. Because there'll be many more of us on the streets. Goodbye. Yeah, goodbye.
Mass vaccine rollout is an enormous responsibility, and we need to get it right. I have written to the Prime Minister recommending that he consider calling on the Ministry of Defence to establish a small task force led by a senior, empowered voice of authority. The armed forces have the capacity, the logistical experience and the national reach. And when you pause to consider what is involved, developing a national database to track progress and issue the vaccination certificates, which they themselves will probably have to be internationally recognised in order to allow travel. Relating to the government's response to COVID-19, please could we make greater use of our fine armed forces, trying to move perhaps onto a war footing? The one department in Whitehall that actually plans for and trains for crisis situations is the MOD. Please would you consider taking more advantage of their incredible skill sets in assisting with strategic planning, operational delivery, command and control, and managing the narrative?